Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yep. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guide Network. Man, first full week off of content on this network. The boys are telling me right here since July 4th. So we were like 8 months of really grinding it out here, and I do feel as if I have to earn my vacations. You know what I mean? Right. I really got to grind it out and earn the right to take a week off of content. And even when I do so, I got to make sure I got to give myself a test or something. So I went ahead and gave myself the flu. And that's what had happened last week. And I ain't gonna lie to you, it's still kind of working its way over on me right now. I don't think the war has been won. I think the battles are starting to come my way though, so I think we're all right on that front. Still dealing with some ear infection thing going on. I ain't had an ear infection since I was like 11.
Yeah, I didn't know adults get
super disoriented. Oh my God. Like, I feel as if I've had an AirPod lodged in my ear in the right side of my head for like 4 or 5 days. Can't hear nothing up out of here. So yeah, hopefully we don't pass out tonight. Hopefully nothing goes crazy. Welcome in, boys. How was your week off?
Oh, weather-wise, couldn't have asked for a better week.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, it was good, man.
Did you get anything done?
Yeah, still pumped out articles, still did the daily stuff, man.
We still work. We just didn't be on the show.
So you guys worked.
Hey, someone's got to hold it down, right?
It was a straight up blur for me for the last week.
Honestly, all I did was go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing
nothing really
different.
changed. You just got some more sleep.
Exactly. It was nice.
That's nice.
That's a good way to capitalize off the week.
Hey, but we are back. We are back here on the Film Guy Network, and we got some great stuff for you guys playing tonight. It is indeed a loaded show as per usual. Basically, since we've been off air, Ohio State has been pillaged. Absolutely ravaged by the rest of college football and the NFL with regards to their coaching staff. So we'll talk about that tonight. Matt Rule and potentially others kind of ruling out the idea of spring games. We'll talk about that tonight as well. Takeaways from the Super Bowl. Kalen DeBoer back with his buddy and Ryan Grubb. We have another to-do list tonight, boys. We're going to tackle LSU tonight. Tell you what LSU needs to handle this offseason to have a very successful year in 2025. And of course, we're going to do exit interviews tonight, as you can tell by the title of tonight's broadcast. Welcome in. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. I got a loaded one for you, but I want to open with this, guys. We had a lot of questions mid-December, right around Christmas time. One of the biggest names in the world of football decides, hey, I know I'm like 32 wins away from the NFL all-time record. To hell with it. I'm 72 years old. I'm going to go coach North Carolina, right? And Bill Belichick takes the head coaching job at North Carolina. And I think everyone had a bunch of questions. Most regarding around recruiting. How is this guy going to handle, the 72-year-old, how is he going to handle coming into college football and dealing with all the schmoozing that you have to do with young football players? How is this guy, the greatest football coach of all time, going to handle curtailing essentially to 17, 18, 19-year-old kids on the recruiting trail? And I think we've gotten some early dividends. There's been a report or an article rather come out lately from ESPN from Eli Letterman. Never heard of Eli Letterman. Eli did a very good job on this recruiting piece right here. And I want to read some of this from you today. I think the biggest question I had on the recruiting trail, first and foremost, what's Bill Belichick wear? What does Bill Belichick wear on the recruiting trail? You know, the standard go-to operations for a college football coach on their trail, you know, khaki pants, maybe black pants if you ain't into the khakis, school-issued tennis shoes, sneakers, and a three-button polo with the quarter zip on top. Quarter zip on top, keynote right here in the coaching recruiting kind of get up. What do you think Bill Belichick out here rocking on the trail, boys? How do you think he dresses? You think he's a hoodie guy? What do you think he's got?
Sleeveless hoodie, dude.
You think he's a sleeveless hoodie guy?
You got to rep it.
I think he's upgraded. I think even he's ventured into the polo.
Practice like you play.
You think three-button polo, quarter zip?
Yeah.
Both of you wrong. Suited and booted on the recruiting trail is Bill Belichick. To the nines.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
You see a couple of like all the media hits that he did and like all the interview things, like even that one photo of when he was in Chick-fil-A in Atlanta. Like, he wears a suit a good bit. Actually.
To the nines, dressed like a presidential candidate on the trail is Bill Belichick. So that's the first thing I wanted to know. Some quotes in this article from some of the top prospects in the state of North Carolina, like Leo Delaney, who was an offensive tackle at Providence Day. That's the school that David Sanders came out of. That's the school that Bryce, the quarterback in Michigan, came out of. Anyways,
Davis,
attaboy. Bryce Davis came out of that school as well. Also, the head coach is the dad of the Florida offensive, Will Grier. Remember Will Grier?
Yeah.
His dad's the head coach of Providence State. Big school up there. A lot of Power 4 prospects come out of there every year. They interviewed some of those football guys. Here was the quote. "It's formal. It's straightforward. It's old school. He's exactly how you expect him to be," says Leo Delaney about the drip that one Bill Belichick rocks out here on the trail. My other question, obviously, what results did he ultimately bring in, the 45 days, essentially, from the moment he signed on as the head football coach at North Carolina to that closing of the first signing window, if you will, right? The traditional signing window, that second signing window in February. And he signed 15 guys. He went from a class in 2025 in North Carolina, as December 20th rolled around, which most of the blue chippers in this class had already signed their national letter of intent. They were ranked outside of the top 75 guys in North Carolina in 2025. By the official closing of that class, he managed to get them into the top 48. I think 47th overall in the consensus 24/7 rankings. So this is a guy that, they weren't recruiting very well at all to close the cycle under Mac Brown. And then obviously Mac retires / gets fired. They hire Bill Belichick and he turns it around pretty quickly. So the results are there as well, which leads me to my next question of what's he actually selling on the recruiting trail? And you could guess it. It's exactly what you think it is. Hey, we're going to be a pseudo NFL team. Now, I got to be honest. When everyone else says this, I'm like, okay, that's great lip service. It's great. A talking point that, your motto is that you're going to be the 33rd NFL organization. Everything's like a professional team. That sounds good, especially when you have the greatest NFL head coach of all time as your head coach in college football, except for this isn't the NFL, and how you go about things in the NFL don't really translate into how we do things in college. Like, for example, just in terms of simple organizational structure, in the NFL, they meet a ton. They have tons of meetings. They have tons of, game plan installs, things like that. They practice for like an hour to 90 minutes for like 3 days a week in shells. They don't hit. They don't practice. They don't develop. They maintain. It's on its inverse in college football. Everything that we do is about practice. We aren't really allowed to have a lot of meeting time because we have this mythical 20-hour rule that nobody really follows. So when you say that you want to be an NFL organization, We don't do NFL things on the college level. We are a preparatory organization on the college level that gets you ready to play and practice like an NFL football player on Sundays. We have to do a lot of development right now in this time period of when we're, playing the game of football. So it's just very interesting to me the way that they go out here. And to be honest, if I'm allowed to be a skeptic, there's a lot of things in this approach to be skeptic about, right? Unless you win football games. If he goes out and wins games like I think he's going to with this year's schedule, this is a moot point. All right, but if you're a 7-5 football team talking about we're the 33rd NFL organization, are you? Because you're a 7-5 ACC football team is what you look like to me. So the wins have to be there, or else all this lip service, which is what it is lip service. Like this right here. In this article, it says, in his introductory news conference, Belichick outlined, quote, the pro program he planned to implement, a regimen geared to the NFL in everything from training to development to technique and verbiage. On January 28th, he carried the same message with him into the living room of 5-star 2026 quarterback Jared Curtis. Quote, they're bringing their NFL playbook to North Carolina, said Curtis, ESPN's number 4 overall prospect in 2026. It's going to be the exact same thing as the NFL, and it's the place you're going to get prepared for the league. It's all words.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but NFL playbooks usually don't translate very well to college programs. In fact, almost every program uses a simplified version of it, including schools that use quote-unquote pro-style offense.
Yeah, we chop the verbiage in college. Again, because we don't have time to sit through 30 hours of meetings during the week and know that the left tackle that we're paying $100 million over the next 10 years is going to 100% know the playbook, right? We have some guy that we get for 90 minutes or 90 seconds before he goes out into practice. And we're like, hey, by the way, this week we installed this. So you got a trap and lock on the backside of counter. We're not actually getting you involved. We're going to run GH counter this week. Well, what, coach? Busted assignment, or we got to spend 30 minutes during practice making sure it happens. I just, man, there's a lot of things that sound good, right? We're bringing an NFL pro-style offense. Guys, the last 10 years I've been watching football, the NFL is stealing from college, not the other way around. There's not a lot of NFL schemes going on out there offensively where colleges are like, hey, yo, let's bring that shit on down here because it's going to work, right? The only guy in the last, and I told you guys this pre-show, the only stories of success, if you will, where I've watched NFL coordinators come down here and run NFL shit. I'm not talking about Dow Loggins coming down here and spread running Lenora Sellers to 32 points per game. That's a different animal. That's an NFL guy coming down here doing college shit, right? Same thing with Shula. Shula's coming down here to South Carolina as an NFL guy who has a background in coaching Cam Newton. What you think he's about to do? He's about to do college stuff. They're not going to be out here running 12 tight under center, elongated verbiage with regards to the terminology that we're using. That's what he's talking about. They're bringing their NFL playbook. It's going to be exactly the same and prepare you for the league, right? The verbiage, the terminology of how we run offense, all that stuff's been condensed. All that stuff's getting RPO heavy. All that stuff's been tailored to the college game, which, by the way, offensively, the rules are completely different than they are in the NFL. All right. Everything with regards to how line of scrimmage play happens on college, totally different than the NFL. That's why the offenses look different. Simple. So, yeah, maybe he can get a bunch of these pro-style guys in. Maybe that's what, but the guys, the high school position at the quarterback position ain't even moving to that. He just signed a guy in Bryce Baker. I love Bryce. I think Bryce is brilliant. I bet Bryce the first 6 months is like, damn, coach, I wish we could red 5, yellow 7 this shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Can we simplify, please? Because everybody else around me ain't smart enough to do this.
I mean, I can think of 2 recent examples of NFL guys coming to the college level. Neither of them. Well, Monken was a success story. I'm talking about 2 guys recently that weren't really success stories of Liam Cohen at Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then recently, Eric Bieniemy, who left the Chiefs, came to UCLA. They averaged 18.4 points per game, 126 in the country last year.
And better yet, guess who's on his staff? Freddie Kitchens.
Oh,
Freddie Kitchens out here lighting it up in college football. No, that's not how it's been. I think it's weird.
The biggest success story I would think is Joe Brady on that 2019 LSU team where he came from the Saints. But other than that, it's very slim.
I would say none of that is quote unquote pro style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. Hey, we have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson.
Buddy, they were an empty 27% of snaps. Like, that's not pro style offense. That's who they think they are. The New York Jets. Like, that's the original. What? They're throwing the ball?
And let's also not forget that the back end of Belichick's career with the Patriots, offenses were not good.
Yeah, the moment Daniels left, it was like we can't call offense.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Even with Brady in 2019, like it was not a very good year for the Patriots.
Very interesting. And I mentioned I got sidetracked there. There have been pro style guys come down here and have a level of success. Monken being one of them. Liam Cohen's first stint in Kentucky was really, really good with Will Levis. I think 8-4, good. Put up 3,700 yards of passing, good. Like it felt really, really good. But other than that, we going the other way.
Yeah.
We're watching Cliff Kingsbury get multiple jobs in the NFL because he can college-y these quarterbacks when they're young in their NFL contracts. So it'll be very, very interesting. I do think the most important stuff with regards to whether or not this is going to be a success, because I think it's going to be, despite all this stuff that I disagree with, I think he's going to win football games, because I think that's a conference that you listen to me tell you they just finished with the 43rd overall recruiting class, and you're like, not good enough to win a title. Good enough to win the ACC. I know it's going to sound crazy, but this is a conference that if you recruit inside the top 45, you've got one of the top 5 rosters in the conference. They don't have perennial top 12 recruiters. It's Clemson, who since NIL has come around is in the 15 to 23 range, guys. And then Miami hanging out over here, who buys a top 10 class. Everybody else hangs out south of the 35 line in terms of overall recruiting. So he's going to be able to have a substantive roster in comparison to everybody else in the conference. The other thing, they are clearly going to spend money. Now, the rev share deal, I have no idea what it's going to look like. But clearly, Bill Belichick's agent had some type of foresight with regards to what it may look like. And what I think it's going to look like is the $20.5 million, every school getting to allocate that money however they see fit. Well, in Bill Belichick's contract, apparently there are stipulations that of the $20.5 million, 13.5 of that's getting spent on football every single year. And to me, that's flabbergasting at that school. That's a hoops school.
Yep.
They don't give a shit about football. Now they do, to a 72% clip. What is 13.5 over 20.5? I don't know if my math's that good, but I think it's like 65% of that budget. That's a lot of money for a basketball school to be throwing at football and their players. Not only that, in this contract, he's also getting another $15 million annually for his staff. So he's going to be able to hire and pay whoever he wants to.
About 66%.
About 66% of that money getting spent on football at a hoops school. So all of those things are really good things, and that's a lot of money to be putting into football. I wish I could be saving that kind of money. Anybody know a place where I might be able to save some dollars like that, some money like that? I think there is a little place called Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 per year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Game on.
Rocketmoney.com/Game on.
Rocketmoney.com/Game on. Rocketmoney.com/
Okay, you might pass out.
Game on. Been a minute since I read that read.
It was good.
And man, was I happy to do it.
Not rusty.
Honestly, at this point, I'm just screaming, hoping that my eardrum pops back out.
Oh.
You know? I'm just trying to get some equalization of the pressure right now in the old eardrum. Welcome in. Told you we got a loaded show for you. It is indeed going to be a good one. Ohio State clearly getting absolutely cleared out right about now. Matt Rule canceling his spring game. We'll tell you why. Takeaways from the Super Bowl. Bama hiring Ryan Grubb back again. Interesting story there. We might start there. I don't know. I think we should start with our takeaways from the Super Bowl. Boys, my takeaway, nice, easy, simple here. Even at the sport's highest level, with arguably the most talented and definitely the best quarterback in the sport right now. If you've got a clear-cut advantage on both sides of the line of scrimmage, don't shit matter. You're going to win the damn football game. Period.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Patrick Mahomes. I think they had 6 sacks in that game. He was under duress the entire time. And when he wasn't under duress, he was off timing because he felt like he was going to be pressured. You never knew where he was going to be coming from. And I think that
the amount of times that dude got to the top of his drop and immediately worked north, I'm like, oh, not good. Not good at all.
And I think that plays into one of my takeaways of great/elite quarterback play can only get you so far. It doesn't matter. Like, if you don't have the other pieces around it, specifically an offensive line, like everybody would tell you that Patrick Mahomes is a much better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Yet Jalen Hurts had a much better performance in the Super Bowl, whereas Mahomes had arguably his worst game in, I don't know, maybe 20 games or something like that.
It honestly reminded me a whole hell of a lot of that Tampa Super Bowl. Yeah. Where it was like, all right, buddy, you ain't got
like
no
first
shot
quarter
today.
You knew. This one's over with.
And I look at it, I do want to know, because this is a college football program show. It's a college football show. I don't know how translatable that takeaway is actually to college, because I think Texas is the only thing close to this. Michigan last year was close to this, where you're clearly going to dominate games because you are so superior on both lines of scrimmage. Ohio State had this defensively, I felt like this year. Yeah. They were a boa constrictor on the defensive line. Offensive line, they had to get protected most of the year. There was a lot of stuff that Chip Kelly was doing to kind of hide those guys. I felt like Texas was the only football team this year where it was like, for the most part, they're great on both lines of scrimmage. Georgia had ups and downs, obviously. So yeah, I don't know how replicable it actually is, because it's not just Philadelphia's defensive line. Everyone obviously talked. That offensive line's probably the greatest in the sport right now as well. Not even probably. They're the greatest in the sport right now. And it's part of the reason why, they rushed for over 2,000 yards at the running back position this year. And they gave Jalen Hurts ample time all night last night.
Oh, since you're talking about the Eagles running back position, I think this is a good one. And it plays into college football too, of free agency signings don't have as much of an overarching impact as draft signings, but they might be the difference maker for you. The Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, probably one of the biggest free agency signings in their franchise history, and that applies to college football too. Of getting guys from the transfer portal might not have as much of an impact as recruiting guys from the high school level, making sure that you have a good foundation in your program, but nabbing you a Will Howard from the transfer portal might be the difference maker for your roster.
I would have went with Caleb Downs there,
or Caleb Downs. That was just the first thing that came to my mind. But Caleb Downs, but you get the point though. Adding those two guys from the transfer portal, I mean, those free agency signings were the difference maker for Ohio State, but they still had a good foundation of guys returning for their 5th year, 4th year, guys like Jack Sawyer, where that kind of put them over the edge.
I think both of those defenses, Philly more specifically than Kansas City, but both of those defenses find ways to manipulate or create pressure without adding extra hats to the box. The non-blitz stat is stupid.
Yeah.
The ability to get, I think they got pressure on 42% of snaps last night, did Philly, without sending a single pressure. Blitz. Not a single blitz all night long. Did Philadelphia. Pressure and blitz, two different things, by the way. Pressure 5, blitz 6. Now, they rushed 4 all night last night.
Pretty much, yeah.
I didn't even pressure. That was what was crazy. So, yeah, I don't know how many teams are going to be able to do that. But if you can stop the run and just handle the box playing 2 high safeties all night long, you're going to be a good football team.
Yeah,
you're going to keep everything in front of you. I know that sounds crazy, but that's it.
One of my takeaways was, if your opponent's leading rusher is a non-mobile quarterback who has 25 yards, you're probably going to win that game.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes was the Chiefs' leading rusher last night.
Oof.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is because I think they had 3 traditional carries in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, they were slinging it at first. Like, they did not run the ball. But when they did,
quickly, like, we're going to have to throw the ball today. We're going to have to find something.
For all you analytics dorks out there, okay, all you, big analytical push on throw on first down. Have you heard this lately?
Yeah.
People call you an idiot for running the ball on first down nowadays. Kansas City, trying to do analytical, drop back on first down all the time last night. Them some bitches was in 2nd and 17 so many times in that football game. And guess what you ain't doing? 2nd and 17. You're not running the football. We know you're throwing it again. You have to, essentially, based off the down and distance. So they opened up the second half literally force-feeding the ball in the run and still couldn't get anything done. The pressure with, like I said, I think that was my secondary takeaway, is that if you're able to get that much pressure without sending that many bodies, you're gonna be winning football games.
I had another takeaway from this, and this one was actually kind of surprising me. Third down conversion rates are supplemental in winning games. Like, yeah, there are certain times where you can point to it and be like, oh, this team just blew them out of the water in third down conversions. That's why they lost this game. But Kansas City was more efficient on third downs than Philadelphia was.
I would think that third down distance is far more implicative of success
definitely
than
played
actually
into
conversion
it.
rate.
Most definitely played into it. But I mean, Kansas City was 3 for 11. Philly was 3 for 12.
I'm talking about that's what you should go with.
Yeah.
Not like, you should be like, all right, well, so and so went 40% on third downs, so and so went 33%, 40%. But the dude that went 33% was averaging 3rd and 2s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got a chance to go for it on 4th down. If you're in 3rd and 7, 60% of the time you're punting the football. Okay, I actually got a chance to get into a 4th and short situation.
So yeah, I had one more. Let me find it. Yeah, I mean, this is the last one I had. It's hard to beat a team when you have no spirit. By like the midway through the third quarter, they were showing the bench and they were showing Chiefs fans like they were so deflated. There was no 28-3 happening here. There was nothing. There was no comeback in the cards for them. They'd given up. They'd called it in.
I think that's funny too. The fact that Tom Brady was the one calling this game.
By the way,
and
first time I've heard Tom and like had to listen to it. Not very good.
No, I agree. It's not very good.
Not
but
good at all.
I did think it's funny that, there's this whole GOAT debate between him and Patrick Mahomes. And in the third quarter, he gets to go and, when it was 28-3 for me in the Super Bowl, this was the mindset that we had. Or, I think even at one point in the broadcast, he says, in my first 9 Super Bowls, I was like, dude is just straight up flexing.
That one was and they were trying to be self-deprecating. You could tell the producer got into his ear and was like, hey, Kevin, make fun of him for not scoring a touchdown in the first quarter of 9 of his first 10 Super Bowls. So they say it. And Brady's like, oh, man, you got to breathe that up. Yeah, no, I got off to bad starts. I'm like, what? But no, I thought, the dichotomy of listening to him in that situation, call the guy who, for the last 5 years, everybody's been like, oh, it's over. Pat Mahomes is going to run him down. I don't think so. Also, was very confused that they couldn't figure out how to create immediate open options for this quarterback in a system where they're clearly rushing 4, playing a shitload of zone. Can we figure out a way to get the ball out of his hand now? That was what Brady was so great at. You can never, even if you had good enough pass rushers like the Giants did, they actually got to him, right? They had 4 pass rushers that were really good. It's a Strahan and the
Osi Umenyiora.
Osi. That year, right? Where they broke the NFL sack record. They couldn't get to him ever. You could not get to Brady. But this guy holds the football. Why couldn't we figure that out, man?
That's a great question.
Probably one they're asking themselves right now.
I think the real question they're asking is Andy Reid going to retire? Because you're in trouble if that happens.
Yeah. Not an NFL football show, but figured I'd dump the take right there. Why can't we get rid of the ball? Why are we out here running backwards? I understand why we couldn't get Travis open. They have 4 or 5 zone defenders apexing him left and right. I understand that, but we can't do nothing. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. All right. If you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, we will be made readily available, however, where you get your podcast. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, firing off in the chat as well. Boys, since we've done our last show, Jim Knowles was nabbed from Ohio State to become the defensive coordinator at Penn State for an annual sum of $3.5 million. And Chip Kelly was nabbed from Ohio State to become the offensive coordinator for your Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders, wearing that silver and black, for an annual value, ladies and gentlemen, of $6 million.
Hell yeah.
Shout out Chip Kelly. Ohio State has since promoted Brian Hartline to be the offensive coordinator for the second time.
Again.
We'll talk about that here in a second. And apparently, per reports today, they're going to hire a guy by the name of Joe Cullen. Now, $10 to anybody on the stage who can tell me who the hell Joe Cullen is.
I actually feel like I've heard that name before. He's a former player?
You'll know why when I tell you.
Doesn't he host a late night show?
Who's that? No. Who's the joke about?
Conan.
Oh, it's a Conan joke. Mr. Joe Cullen, hired as their defensive coordinator, per reports. Defensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
That's why I think you know Mr. Cullen's name. His defensive lineman been sacking Raiders for about 10 years now, even though he's only been there for a couple.
Very funny.
Interesting fun fact about Mr. Cullen. Now, if you're one of these guys that has found our channel from Columbus, Ohio, plug your ears. Or I'm going to plug one because it's the only thing I need to do. I don't love it. I don't love it. Here's why. Mr. Cullen has called defensive plays 3 times in his life. 3 different stints, 3 different locations, all 1-year stints.
Ooh.
Must have been doing really good and just moving up
Insane,
on the ladder.
we hiring you out situation, my guy.
What you're telling me is the headline is just saying former Kansas City Chiefs defensive line coach. Because the rest of it don't look pretty.
No, this ain't. Well, I'm not going to say it doesn't look pretty because he may come to college and dominate, but he called plays in 2019 in college football at Indiana. Anybody remember Indiana lining it up defensively?
No.
All right, so it's happened a couple of times, and then he goes right back immediately to being a defensive line specialist. Okay, maybe who's the Richard Johnson? Is that the defensive line coach up there? Legendary Larry Johnson. That's the defensive line coach up there. Maybe he just doesn't have coordinating aspirations.
Yeah,
because
perhaps.
if you just wanted to hire a lifer on the defensive line to be your DC, why not go the Larry Johnson route? I don't know why they didn't pick up the phone and call Mike Vrabel, to be honest with you. That's crazy to me.
Figured
because he's coming running. You know, coming running.
You think so?
I think you could have probably hired Bill Belichick away from UNC.
Yeah, there's a buyout there.
Yeah.
Though. That's unfortunate. I think,
Vrabel, but he's only there.
Vrabel probably, because he loves Columbus so much, probably agrees to pay his own buyout to get out of New England.
Oh, like,
be your DC.
Did he live 3 hours away like he's a homer of Columbus?
Yeah.
You think Mike Vrabel's leaving an NFL job, a head coaching job, to be a DC for his...
Oh, for sure.
For sure. It's Ohio State.
Yeah, biggest brand in college football.
I don't know.
This guy doesn't understand the pull of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
An NFL head coaching job.
He either doesn't understand the pull of the Ohio State Buckeyes or doesn't understand sarcasm.
It's the second one.
Yeah, we're being jackasses right now.
It's been a while, guys. Come on, I'm rusty.
I did think there was an internal defensive assistant that they had that was kind of chalked as a potential guy. They went away. They went with the Cullen route. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. Now, the Heartline promotion was inevitable, but it's already kind of happened.
Yeah, I thought he still had the title.
He had co-OC titles.
Okay.
They promoted Heartline to full-time OC in 2023. Within 5 games, I believe, Ryan Day was calling plays again. This has already happened. It didn't go well. Now, I don't know if they lose Heartline if they don't promote him again. But wasn't Heartline sniffing around head coaching jobs this offseason?
Yeah, he was mentioned in one of them, I believe.
Preliminary. Didn't take an interview, didn't go far.
Yeah.
But clearly his agent was like, hey, if y'all don't, he might, interesting. We'll see how that goes.
If you're Ohio State, though, is that like... Obviously, outlook, and again, you're still one of the most talented teams in the country. You're still going to be preseason, top 5, all these things. But it does feel kind of like you went all out for the 2024 season, and thank God you won it, because Lord knows what would have happened.
This isn't a Michigan situation because they're not depleted roster wise,
right?
Like they still have blue chippers, like they got guys, but. This is a coaching overhaul, unlike most national title winning teams have, right? You're going to have to replace offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. You got a brand new first-year starter at the quarterback position. Of course, you got Jeremiah Smith. You got who's playing running back?
That's what I'm saying.
At Ohio State.
There's a lot more.
Who's playing defensive end at Ohio State? Who's playing defensive tackle? Trey Simon, the starting linebacker, gone, right? I know Sonny Styles is still there. Great football player. Converted safety, 5-star out of high school. Great. But they're replacing a bunch of football players. This isn't quite the overhaul that Michigan had to do, though.
No, I put it more on par with
and they won't be going 7-5.
No. I put it more on par with what Georgia dealt with in those years they won national titles, where you lost a lot of players. You were still a very good football team, but they lost way more coaches this year. It's not alarming, but it is kind of like, ooh, could be concerning.
I don't love the coaching hires.
No.
They're always going to recruit well. They're always going to have a top 5 roster. There's no doubt.
And maybe that's why I don't really have as much concern, because I think that can kind of fill a lot of holes or fill a lot of issues for you.
Yeah.
But
And correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't love Chip Kelly at first.
Oh, no, I loved the idea that you were bringing in a head coach who hated being a head coach to be a great coordinator. Chip did not want to recruit, man.
Mm-hmm.
He did not want to do all the stuff
really had
that
to.
requires to be a good head coach at UCLA. And then got to Ohio State, and it's like, hey, here's this Lambo. Don't stick it into turn 4, you know?
and he might
just drive it
give
fast.
to the Raiders.
And then dip out to the Raiders.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Sick.
All that coaching movement, man, just corrupting the heart of this sport. You know, back in my day, there was loyalty. You know, you stuck around at a program for several years.
You went through the contract.
Yeah, man. If we don't start holding these coaches accountable and making them provide some loyalty, we're going to lose this sport.
Mm-hmm.
I love giving that take every time. You know how many coaches text me after I tweeted that one out when all the Noel stuff happened? It's like, this has got to stop. I had like 4 or 5 coaches text me and was like, well, defending coaching and all the dipping out. And I'm like, bro, I was being sarcastic, but you sure are barking pretty loud right about now. Matt Rule. Going to cancel the spring game?
He's flirting with it. I don't know if it's officially
I got the quote right here.
But
I think it's really fundamentally, I hate to say it like this, it's really because last year we were one of the most televised spring games, and I dealt with a lot of people offering our players a lot of opportunities after that. To go out and bring in a bunch of new players and showcase them for all the schools to watch, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Basically said, I don't foresee us having a spring game, and he's going to cancel it. Now, this has already happened. This started last year when Lane Kiffin was like, hey, Joey, how many glizzies can you gobble out here in front of national television on ESPN?
Yeah.
So this has already begun, and it makes sense. And I know a lot of the people that listen to this, you guys are very, very certified in your ball knowledge. I am very, very aware of this. So to some of you folks, I might be telling you something that you already know. But ain't a decision made one in terms of the depth chart and how the football team's actually going to go about playing football that fall, ain't a decision one made during a spring game. There is not a single position battle that has ever been won or lost during a spring game. They are won and lost in the 15 practices that you don't get to see at all behind closed doors in the lead up to that spring game. Guys, do you know, you guys know this, do you at home know how much actual scrimmaging goes on during these spring practices? The 15 practices lead, it's an hour of the 2-hour practice. They're banging and clanging, going 1s, 2s, and 3s, seeing what their roster looks like, seeing their backups actually practice and actually hit. They're in full pads every other day for a month straight. They are exhausted, completely banged up and depleted by the time they even get to the spring game. Okay, so yeah, maybe there has been in the history of spring games a guy who had won the job for 14, 15 practices and then goes out there in the spring game in front of 80,000 and just pisses down his leg. And coach is like, well, this guy's a cage hitter. Like, we can't put him out there against live competition. He just likes BP. Like, maybe there are situations like that. But 9 times out of 10, most of these decisions are already made. And we're going out there and performing in front of a crowd on spring games for fans' purposes. It has nothing to do with the actual decision-making processes that we have going on.
I mean, the only time spring games get really exciting is, if there's a new head coach. So, like, you're going through a coaching change and, like, a big-time coaching change usually. Like, the Mark Richt to the Kirby Smart spring game was big. Kalen DeBoer's spring game last year, people were watching that. And then also when you have a quarterback battle going on. When you got 1 and 2 guys, all the fans want to pick one that they like better. Who had the better 30 throws today in this small window of time? That's who we want to pick as our next starting quarterback. And then also, like, backup quarterbacks. Everybody loves to see, what we got waiting in the cupboard.
And I mean, to the defense of the coaches that are like really in favor of canceling these spring games, it seems like it's more of a, we're not going to let our 2s and 3s be put in front of cameras, in front of things.
Correct.
So that we can have someone to go on and watch film later and say, oh shit, that guy can play. So that when you lose your 3rd string running back and you go through the middle of the season, your depth chart is completely depleted.
Honest to God, like, The SEC had less turnover in terms of teams trying to pillage their twos this year than ever before. Mm-hmm. And I do believe there's a potential because most of these games were close. There wasn't a lot of interconference blowouts or in-conference blowout games this year, which means 2s and 3s and 4s didn't get on the field. So, we're doing it right now where we looked at the young guys and coming back on the offense for Georgia in 2026 or 2025 from the backups last year. There's 40 snaps to evaluate.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
No. And defensively, it's even less. Defensively, there are even less snaps to pay attention to. So I do think that this isn't just a Georgia thing. It's across the board. We didn't have, apart from Oregon, we had one undefeated regular season Power 5 football team. Everybody else played nut cutters for 13 weeks. So, yeah, you didn't get to see the backups this year. So maybe that's why you didn't see as much pillaging, leading you to believe that, the spring game on television is probably going to be your biggest in terms of exposure on your backups that aren't playing right now for everybody else to watch.
And that would be kind of new if that happened this year, though, because in previous years, the spring window has been you might snag yourself a decent quarterback that comes out that pops their name into the portal, like Brock Vandagriff was this. It's like, former 5-star entering the portal. And then you might get yourself a running back that enters or a defensive line, something like that. But really, it's never been where that's the time where a whole lot of poaching goes on, at least to an extent or a mass amount of it.
Boys, did you know that BetUS now has a live casino?
Oh, boy.
Yep, they have a live casino for all my followers and listeners who like slots or live casino dealers. Take advantage of BetUS's amazing sign-up bonus up to 200%, up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus, up to $2,000.
Yeah. You in that crypto?
I ain't into that funny money. No, I'm not. But hey, if you are, you can gamble away over there on BetUS. Shout out to those folks. Shout out to BetUS. Appreciate them for supporting us all season and continuing into the offseason. Guys, Kalen DeBoer back with his bestie.
Best buds back together.
I mean, I want somebody like Ryan Grubb. That's what I want. I want me, other than my wife, who I love tremendously. I want a partner. I want a platonic male friend like what Kalen DeBoer has in Ryan Grubb.
I mean, that is the
ideal. It's ideal. This guy's got a good little setup going on right now. He's got an offensive coordinator who I believe was up for the Broyles Award before he left for Seattle last year, which is awarded to the best assistant coach in college football. This guy, Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer, in the last 17 seasons of football, have coached apart from one another just twice.
Dang.
Just twice. 2019, when DeBoer was like, you know what? I'm big leaguing you. I'm going to Indiana to be the offensive coordinator, only to immediately get the Fresno head coaching job. You know what he does? Come on down, Ryan Grubberton. You're going to be my OC. And then this past year, when it was an absolute debacle for Ryan Grubb up there with Seattle.
Yeah, that was ugly.
It was a 1 year, you ain't made for this NFL stuff. Get on out of here.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah. Now, we got some Alabama fans that listen to this show. I'm curious because when he kind of, I'm going to be your OC. By the way, you're definitely bringing this Austin Mack kid that I love. You're bringing him to Alabama, by the way, and some of these other guys that I like. You're doing this, and then before I even move into my home, I'm going to go take an NFL job. Kind of left him out to dry. Mm-hmm. And I remember the discourse around Alabama fans being like, hey, yo, Grubb, don't come around these parts anytime soon because we're going to look at you kind of funny.
Yeah.
And now, after a 9-4 season, they're like, please,
come on back.
For the love of God, please, come on back. This Nick Sheridan guy got to go.
It's funny how things like that work.
Ain't it? Ain't it funny?
How much does this change Alabama's offensive approach? Because we always talked about how Kalen DeBoer has a certain system that he likes to follow. It felt like Ryan Grubb was really a major component of that system, and it seemed like now, obviously, you had a roster that made you stray away from that, but it did not seem like a Kalen DeBoer offense last year. Was that because he didn't have Ryan Grubb, or was that because of who the quarterback was?
I think it was because of who the quarterback was. However, what they did at Washington, I remember studying them. We said they were a pro-style Tennessee. Do you remember me saying that?
Yep.
The way Tennessee, but prior to not being able to throw the football and prior to not having weapons, what made Tennessee so great was not just the spacing, it was all the motion to stacked bunches and all the motion to stacked alignments while pressing vertically, right? And that's what Washington was doing so well. All the pre-snap motion, all the window dressing that they were doing with Michael Penix and Washington and those receivers, none of that really translated and correlated over to Alabama. Now, some of that could have been obviously the quarterback. I do believe, though, they could have done a much better job of the pre-snap winning that they were doing at Washington that didn't come over. And I do think that Ryan Grubb coming back brings some of that back. I love the idea that he's coming back to Alabama for DeBoer. I think it's something that allows him to feel a lot more comfortable. And by the way, these two guys are coming off of their worst seasons as football coaches maybe ever. These guys don't lose football games. They don't have failures. They haven't. They've never really had some most games that I believe DeBoer's lost as a head football coach.
That's an interesting point too then
and Grubb's never had anything like, hey dude, by week 3 DK Metcalf's going to be on the horn MFing you on national television calling you a scrub. Like, that's what was happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys went from, I'm winning awards, people think I'm the greatest football coach up and coming, to now they got questions about me year one, and they got questions about my OC who just left me.
I think that's kind of an interesting point, too, of now both of these guys are entering a season where they're facing adversity, what feels like for the first real time in their careers. Like, and this is different too, because this isn't just adversity of, oh, we had a down year at Fresno State, we got to be better next year. This is, we had a down year at Alabama, and now we got to fix this immediately. Like, this is a whole different set of expectations that you have on your shoulders right now.
Yeah, and I think that's something we're kind of forgetting, that, like, yes, these are two coaches that together have had a lot of success throughout the seasons. They also have not played the competition that they played in last year. I don't think Ryan Grubb had any NFL stints prior to that.
Negative.
Kalen DeBoer certainly was not an SEC coach. So it could also be that while these guys have been extremely successful, the stakes are much higher and the challenges are much greater.
4 games is indeed the most he's ever lost in a season.
Checks out. I mean, it makes sense. He's a great head coach and he's won a lot. That's part of the appeal that was for him at Bama, but you weren't playing Georgia and Tennessee and Florida and all these other teams every week.
To me, all of my questions, not all of them, most of my questions, 90% of my questions about Alabama in 2025 revolve solely around defense.
Really?
Well, I like Ty Simpson. I like the wide receiver core that they have. I do like obviously the center that they brought over, who I always forget the name of. I think he's an All-American, 72. I do like the parts that they have. It's defensively. They lost an NFL dude on every level defensively this year. So we'll see.
I do have some concerns about the running game, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's fair.
Not only did you lose Justice Haynes to the transfer portal, but Jalen Milroe, as iffy as he was as a quarterback, that guy was your most explosive runner. So now you're having to almost substitute 2 parts to your run game and try and figure that out. I don't know. That would be a big question for me.
And, I mean, everything that I heard last year, when you think of Kalen DeBoer, you think of an offensive mind, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I thought he had his hands all over that offense last year. Everyone I talked to from Alabama was like, no, he's a CEO, dude. He's an oversight guy. He is not going to walk in there and establish the game plan on Sunday afternoons with Nick Sheridan. He's going to let the guy do what he's doing. And I don't think anybody sitting here thinks Nick Sheridan's a better offensive coordinator than Ryan Grubb. Not from what we know. Right, so they definitely have made an improvement right there with Grubb. Let's move on to our to-do list. We got LSU today. I'll go first. I've got 5 things that I think they've got to get handled. We'll start with number 1. This is the most important thing about Nussmeier. Now, LSU fans have already gotten into the mentions this offseason because of my quarterback rankings. And where is Nussmeier? Why is he not ranked as high as most of the national media believes he is to be? The what the F are you doing interceptions from Nussmeier cannot happen. Like, they can't happen from this guy, okay? When a super traitsy football player makes a decision where you're like, what? Why are you putting the ball at risk? We can't do that stuff. For every one of those super traitsy football players make like 4 like just insane plays. Nussmeier's not one of these guys. Nussmeier needs to be a football player who for 4 quarters makes tremendous decisions. And then once or twice a game does something super special. That's what that type of football player needs to do. He's 6'1", he's 220 pounds, he's deadly accurate, supposed to be, yet he's only completed about 65% of his passes as a starting quarterback in just 1 year starting. So why is he not a 70% complete? Well, some of these decisions that I have questions about. And by the way, they are only going to go as far as he takes them this year because I don't think they're LSU standard at the weaponry department. Who's the best wide receiver at LSU this year?
Nick Anderson.
Just transferred in from Oklahoma after a banged up year. Mm-hmm. Okay. Definitely lost Mason Taylor, the school's best tight end in the history of production at that school. So there's a lot of downticks in terms of production value and stardom at the wide receiver and weaponry department. He's got to protect the football much, much better. Number 2, they've got to establish a consistent running game. They were outrushed by nearly 600 yards in conference play this year, boys. 600.
Ooh.
Not good. Now, some outliers there. You give up 311 yards to Alabama at home on the ground. You're going to have some problems, but they do have some positives. Caden Durham, their returning running back, had 750 yards last year, and I thought he did really, really good once they figured out, he's our guy.
Yep.
And they, the 5-star, I think number 22, got hurt early on in the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his status.
I can't remember.
Anybody?
I don't either.
I can
Let's figure that out. A super talented football player that was, had promise for them going into last year, got banged up real early. Number 3, they've got, this part perhaps the most important, they've got to get better on the interior of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. From guard to guard last year, they were not anywhere close to the standard in this conference. They had 2 first-round tackles and couldn't run the football. They had 2 first-round tackles and couldn't protect the quarterback consistently. I think they had 7 sacks against Florida. How? Well, the answer is they were not good interior offensive line-wise. Guard to guard, they were bad. And guess what? They signed 2 transfers. DJ Chester coming back as a second-year starter for them out of the state of Georgia out there. So they at least threw bodies at it on the offensive side. And defensive line-wise, I think they signed 5 defensive tackles in 2025. So they need some freshmen to ball out for them, but they at least threw bodies at it, and that's a major, at least box check for them. Number 4, they've got to get off to a better start. They've been catastrophic out of the gates as a football team under Brian Kelly, and they don't help themselves with scheduling. They got to start this year on the road at Clemson. And number 5, this will blow your mind. At least it blew my mind. And it makes a lot of sense when you look at the performances they've had defensively over the last several years. Guys, LSU has gone 2 straight years and going on a third of not having a defensive back drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. It is the first time it has happened at LSU since 06 and 07. They've gone 17 years, guys, of at least putting 1 top 3 round defensive back every other year in the draft, and they failed to do so the last 2 years, and they're not going to do it this year.
That's not very
So Derek Stingley was the last one?
Derek Stingley was the last top 3 defensive back to be drafted out of LSU.
Yikes.
This is LSU.
DBU, apparently.
Not good.
No.
And again, not happening this year.
No.
They're not going to have a corner or a safety draft in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's never good when your to-do list in an offseason is wide receivers. Got to figure that one out. Like you brought in Barry and Brown and Nick Anderson, 2 transfers that seem like some good prospects for any roster to add. But I think a lot of LSU fans would tell you that is not the LSU standard at wide receiver right now. And then even going into defensive back, like 2 positions that you are currently known for, not having like those being questions going into a season, and that's not exactly ideal. And that was the first one I had was I phrased it as force Garrett Nussmeier to watch nothing but Tom Brady highlights this year. Don't hate it. Just don't turn the ball over. We can check down and we will live with that one. And then you got to max out Nick Anderson and Barry and Brown this year because you don't have these superstar wide receivers that you typically had that you've had for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I kept it very concise and just 3 main points because, like we said, there is a lot where it's like, that needs to be better. Quarterback needs to be better. Running back needs to be better. So I just said, be more consistent on defense. We came into this year saying, how they had a bunch of defensive hires. Brian Kelly said he's fixed a lot of things. It was better than it was in 2023.
Paid a shit ton of money for Blake Baker to come down there too.
Yeah, I mean, it was better than it was in 2023. I don't think it's unfair to say that they definitely improved, but it's not SEC standard. It's not national champion standard. It needs to become more consistent. Second one I had was, like you said, more formal running game. Coming into last year, we said you lost a 1,000-yard rusher in Jaden Daniels. No one really accounted for that. You don't have a running game. You didn't have one in 2024. You had a consistent guy, but it was nothing that anyone feared and caused defenses to kind of walk someone down on you. Third one I have is just stop pissing down your leg in week one. I mean, Brian Kelly's gone 0 for 3 in week one games now, and it's
He's staring down 0 for 4.
Do you think so?
Clemson's going to be favored in that football game.
It's on the road, right?
Yeah. Clemson's going to be favored by 3.5 points in that game.
That's going to be interesting.
The real Death Valley.
Ooh.
The battle for the real.
Nah, they storm the field after beating App State, dog. Nah, you can't.
It's tradition.
That.
It's tradition.
Yeah, okay.
Would you be opposed to telling Blake Baker, like, maybe let's not get too exotic anymore?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. No, not at all. No,
boy,
not at all.
like, from a neutral fan, it's fun to watch, but if I were attached to that program, it'd give me a heart attack.
227?
Golly, dude. Sometimes I'm just like, what are we doing?
Not a fan of the old 227 on 3rd and 6?
Hey, if it works, yeah, I'm a fan, but geez.
I love Texas A&M seeing it on film and basically saying, hey, guys, don't care if it's 3rd and a zip code. If we see this, we're automatically checking to a run with Le'Veon Moss, and we're going to let these guys try to tackle him from 12 yards of depth.
Ridiculous.
Good luck. The old 227. Crazy work.
They'll never see it coming.
They'll never see it coming. All right, we got exit interviews. Something that you guys seem to like. That's about a hit or miss. About 80% hit rate.
I think it's
20% is we don't like that. Okay. How dare you try to be humorous in the offseason? Serious takes only. Kalen DeBoer, come on in. Coach, I want to talk about a few things that concern me from last year, to be honest with you. Several. Zero week-to-week consistency. That's a main problem. You're out here beating the shit out of LSU on the road one week, at night out there in Death Valley, and then, you handle Mercer at home, and then you go lay an egg the next week at Oklahoma. Just very, very weird. You were also beaten by teams that are nowhere near as talented as you. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Michigan in that year are completely inexcusable losses at this university. And to be honest with you, Coach, I think you know that. I don't think I have to tell you that. I think you learned that from your mentions this offseason and this regular season. I know the quarterback was one that you felt like you were kind of stuck with. And Coach, we're going to extend you some grace in that area. But Coach, I got a major problem I want to talk to you about. And I honestly think it's the reason that you had such up and down inconsistencies in year one. And it's a quote from your player that just came out this past week. Here's the quote, Coach. Quote, "You can't be late to workouts no more. No more jewelry, no more necklaces, none of that. It's not a fashion show. It's football." Coach, that's great that we're out here, making kids take off the earrings during weights and stuff. But, Coach, no more? As if they had an option to show up late in year one.
Well, let me tell you this. One, we know that 18, 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids say a lot of things that can be taken out of context sometimes. I have been very, very adamant that my programs will be player-led programs. Now, I think that when I came in, I might have let some things go too open. Nick Saban was a coach who had a lot of discipline. A lot of things were very strict on. I came in, maybe had a different approach, and things were maybe gone too lax or went under the wire there. That's why we're tightening things up this year. That's why players are saying, oh, it's not a fashion show anymore. Oh, you can't be late for workouts. Obviously, being late for workouts isn't an excusable thing. It's not that anyway at high school, college, or professional athletics. That's a quote from a college athlete making a hyperbole about being late for workouts and that being okay with us.
I do appreciate and I understand that we are in a world where, kids can get misunderstood on podcasts that, 10 years ago, we didn't have to deal with none of this nonsense. I am very, very sympathetic to that ideal. But I know the real, Coach. I know that you guys did not practice very hard in 2024. I know that. Now, you can tell me that it's because you had to make sure guys actually wanted to stay for you, right? And you're worried about guys leaving, and I understand that. I know you're laid back as a football coach. I also know that these football players that you took over for and you entered their life, they just left the biggest disciplinarian in the history of football. So the idea that you're going to walk in there and be a hard ass after the biggest hard ass and the hard asses of hard asses just left, I understand. Probably not the style that you wanted to go with. I know that you're going to have to get this thing right in terms of a down-to-down disciplinary actions in 2025, okay? Also, if one of your leaders of your football program refuses to come off the field for a defensive coordinator again, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have a serious conversation.
Again, and I completely agree with everything you're saying here. And you look back at the track record I've had, you look back at the records and the championships that I've won, doing these systems and implementing these things that I believe in, that traditionally I've done. I've always been a player-led coach. I think that there takes some adjustment in this year. Keep in mind, almost none of these guys on this roster were guys that I recruited, guys that I vetted, guys that I went through and said, okay, they're a cultural fit for us. So I understand why you look at these and go, oh, he's lost control of the program, he's going too soft on these guys. Well, there are certain aspects and things I need to make changes of. This is the SEC. I don't have any experience here. But let's also not forget, this was my first year in this entire conference. I had this team at ranked number 1. Now, yes, we lost to some teams that we shouldn't have. So has every coach in their first year. I remind you, Nick Saban, the greatest of all time, I'm following up, lost to ULM in his first year. Kirby Smart beat Nicholls State by 2 points in Athens. It happens. You get some kinks in the road. We certainly had more than we wanted, but I'll tell you this. We're going into year 2 and things are going to be different.
Man, for a non-Southerner, you sure know your history of football coaches in this here conference you've never coached in. I'm
a student of the game.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you being here, Coach. Honestly, I am optimistic about the offense in 2025. Just keep a close eye on the defense for me.
Gotcha.
Let's bring in Lane Kiffin next.
Hey, sorry, just getting done with my get ready with me with my daughter. So a little late. Apologize. Just want to go ahead and get it out
how have the TikTok impressions been since Trump saved the app?
Honestly, our impressions up about 24% right now. Ever since I started doing the videos.
It's an hour thing.
Yeah,
with you and the daughter.
Oh yeah, of course. Always team mode.
You get a percent? You get a cut?
Oh no.
60-40 your way?
No.
Oh, it's surprising for you, Coach. I'm glad, honestly, that we stopped messing around with Florida, huh? Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah. Are you ready to plant roots here, Coach? Because I got to be honest, I was talking to some folks before the meeting today around the athletic department, and I mean, we really like being with you. I think we do, but I don't know if we want to get married to you like forever. I think the idea that you're signed through 2029 is good enough for us. I don't know how you feel, but I don't think we're a long-term, forever family, are we?
I mean, can I have some honesty?
Yeah.
I'll plant some roots, maybe not like oak tree roots, but I'll give you a good two-hander weed in the yard pool type. Just gotta get a little extra strength in there, not too much, but
yeah,
we'll be firmly planted.
I think honestly, Coach, this program around here, 9-3, 5th, 6th in the SEC. If we can make that like an annual date, I think we'll take it up. Now, to be honest, Coach, don't let my boosters hear me say that, because they just gave you about $18 million for you to piss a leg down.
I was going to say,
at Florida. So
if I get to spend that money and go 9-3, I'm perfectly fine. I might grow some oak tree roots here if that's okay. But all right,
I just don't know. I don't know if we're a couple that's going to last forever, and I think it's okay. But we can't get better than you, and you can't get better than us.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, Coach.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so, Coach. Who's calling? You got phone calls?
I thought I did. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Doesn't seem like it, Coach. So I think we're okay.
Hey, I'm good here. Hey, I'm happy right now.
I am too. I'm happy with that national hour.
I am too.
We made it. We made it through an hour.
Oh, it's 9:00. Sick.
Yeah, it is. Hey, we got a whole other hour coming up. It's our local hour. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes.
Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grab some tape.
No, isn't there like an actual term for bird watchers?
I don't know.
We got Cardinal fun facts.
I ain't familiar with that game.
I can't say I've done much bird watching.
Welcome into our local hour. We got a great one for you. We're going to talk about Jackson Dart's comments about Sanford Stadium. I've got a Nolan Smith take that I want to unload today. We got some Super Bowl interactions and thoughts. Coach Cochran getting back into the mix of college football coaching. I've got some concerns, or at least maybe the national media has some concerns about the University of Georgia entering 2025. And I think it's going to give you some bulletin board material, some real bulletin board material. How exciting is that? I've got Under Armour camp takeaways, big camp out there in Carrollton this weekend. Give you some rundown on that one. And we've got a top 5 coming to you guys tonight that I think is going to be really, really fun. So excited about that one. I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you have not checked out BetUS already, you need to be doing so. Head over there today. Use promo code YouTube150. You get a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first time deposit and 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits. Again, up to $2,000. That promo code is YouTube150. I want to talk about Nolan Smith because in my opinion, Nolan Smith is a unicorn, gentlemen. He's a unicorn for a lot of reasons. He's a unicorn that we probably won't see again. He's got a unique personality, very much so a unicorn, unique personality. He's got 1% twitch traits, right? 1% twitch traits. His get off, his 4.42, all the verticality, all the explosive metrics of this dude, he's 1%. He's also a 1% athlete, right? The ability to bend, the movement patterns, the never being compromised in body positioning. Tremendous athlete. But in my opinion, he's a unicorn because you're not going to be able to replicate him again. People like Nolan Smith, at least people Nolan Smith's size, they don't do the things that Nolan Smith does, particularly in the run game. Okay, it's one of the best run edge setters in professional football right now at 6'2", 238 pounds. This is not a huge human. I cannot express to you most of these football players that you have become massive fans of. They're huge. They're ungodly big. Nolan Smith is not one of these football players, okay? That clip that we tweeted out is going viral of him just taking the soul of Trey Smith. That human being in Trey Smith is 6'5", 335 pounds. Nolan Smith is giving up almost 100 pounds every single down when he goes in and takes the soul of those human beings. And he does it. He defies those size discrepancies with a tremendous amount of velocity and ferocity. Okay. He plays the game with a level of violence and speed that most do not. And it's one thing to find football players that have that kind of twitch. It's another to find them that have that type of physical willingness. Okay. The ability to do so and the willingness to do so are 2 totally different conversations with regards to physicality on the game, in the game of football. And once you find those things, right? Once you find the athletic ability, once you find the physical willingness to play that physical, right? Once you find those things, that's one unicorn assignment. Then we have to find the guy that's able to play that physically at that size without somehow his body deteriorating. Because they don't do it. Humans this size don't play this way without getting hurt. You know how I know this? Because Azeez Ojulari exists. Azeez Ojulari walked the planet before Nolan Smith. He was the first 6'2", 248 pound edge rusher out of Georgia that for some reason plays the game with a level of physicality and just dog that he's able to do it, that he's able to set the edge at that size. And guess what? Been a perennial, it's just a bad break for the guy, but it's the reality. Never been able to stay healthy in the NFL. He's constantly on the injured reserve report. It's the same physical metrics. All right. And the only thing that I know Azeez loves football. I know Azeez is a physical specimen. I don't know what it is about Nolan that allows him to do this, because most people this size that play like that, they don't play every single football game like that. Most of them are banged up most of the time. This guy doesn't. Now, maybe he is banged up. Maybe he's just unicornly tough that it doesn't matter. that he's able to play. Maybe he just loves football that much. There's something about him that, again, I don't think is going to be able to be replicated on the next guy. The next guy that pops, 4'2" at 6'2", 238 pounds. Don't just assume he's going to be able to come in and do this type of stuff, because this dude is uniquely gifted.
I think he has all of the uncoachable traits and that require you to do that. Of he does love football. That's something you can't really coach into someone. Like, you either love it or maybe you like it, but you to love it like Nolan Smith loves football, that's just something you're kind of born with, in my opinion. Then all the other stuff about his physical abilities, I mean, he is the perfect mold of, like, if you're going to play like this, if this is how you're going to do it at this size, like Nolan Smith might be one of one.
You know what I've never seen him ever do? Never. I've never seen him hop into contact.
No, God, no.
Never. He never does
plants.
Never does it. And all of them do it. Like, even the clip of Trayvon Walker murdering that Michigan guy, if you pay attention, he takes a gather. He takes a little hop and then throws his hands through. Nolan is full speed, never hopping. Steps are perfect. The technique's perfect. And he's going to kill you.
The only way I can even compare, like, the way he plays is to, like, what stunt doubles do. Well, they're so conditioned and they know how to take falls. They know how to literally get in car wrecks. That anytime I've ever seen Nolan Smith make contact with someone, he's always in perfect wide position. He's always doing the right thing. And again, that still is going to take years off your career just because of the size that he is. But still, he does it so technically sound that it seems like it mitigates injury.
Wasn't his only injury at Georgia a pectoral strain?
Yeah, it was
he tore his
one
pec.
of his final season.
Reaching out and trying to tackle somebody. Against Florida, right?
Correct. Which is not.
No.
That has nothing to do with the way. That's a football injury.
It's a football injury. That's no different than, getting a concussion. It's a football injury.
Yeah, shit happens.
Yeah, shit happens.
But no, I do think you're right in that there's not a Nolan Smith walking around every single draft class. There's not a Nolan Smith walking around Georgia's program right now, I don't think. And that's not an insult to what Georgia has right now. It's just it shows you how great of a player Nolan Smith was. And I think it's also a testament to that 2021 and 2022 squad, because you had guys like that on that team.
In basketball, like the way I was coached, at least, of our coach always told us, if you're tired of ball screens, just one time you blow through the guy, like full speed, don't stop. I'll take the foul on you, but just do it one time. They might steer away from some ball screens. I'd imagine it's kind of the same way in football, where you get a Nolan Smith crashing down like that. Maybe the next time you're pulling his way up.
Yeah, but it's still... The crazy thing about Nolan is it never looks like it hurts him.
No, yeah.
Like, bro, so violent. Both of those clips during the playoffs. He killed somebody from San Francisco, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or from the Rams. Some Ram dude tried to pull a counter and he murdered him.
That was the one where the guy was holding his arm too, right?
Walked away, completely dislocated his shoulder. I mean, just a violent human being.
What's the science behind that?
You know what I call it?
What?
I call it the survival trait. And I talked to a staffer from a very, very big football program today about this. We were talking about prospects in 2026, and we started with the conversation about Nolan in that clip. 99.9% of the reason offensive line of scrimmage players are playing offense is because they don't have this. They don't have this survival trait. They don't have this, I am willing to die from contact. And that's okay. If it's my day-to-day, it's my day, but it ain't going to be mine. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they're hunting and killing, all of them. I have never met a defensive player that plays it at a high level that doesn't seem as if he has rocks in his head. When you play defense.
I know.
And you played football for a long time. I called them line counters. Guys, when we did Oklahoma drill or when we did any type of tackling circuit where you're looking over there and you're like, the first one I ever encountered in football was a kid by the name of Tyler Britton. Tyler Britton never once shot away from contact. It's like it was water to him. He just ran through it. Those guys only play defense. They will never play offense. And if you don't have that trait, you ain't playing defense.
Nope.
It's a survival trait. That's what they all have.
Interesting.
It's something that guys like Jordan Davis had to have created into them, right? Trey Scott, for the first 2 years of Jordan being at Georgia, it was, I need you to hunt. I need you to learn how to be a killer. It's awesome that you have a great smile. It's awesome that everyone wants to give you a hug. But I don't want the opponent to think that about you. I want the opponent to be pissing down his leg because he thinks you're going to eat him. That's what I want.
God, that would have been such a good segue.
Any other Super Bowl takeaways?
I do think it is kind of satisfying from a Georgia perspective to have this team that is labeled as kind of the Georgia Bulldogs of the NFL. Like, this is what our team would be doing in the NFL. Go out and win a Super Bowl, and not only have that, but have the GM, have the starting quarterback of that team, have the head coach, all of them talking about how, a lot of this has to do with the culture that these Georgia Bulldogs have brought forth.
That was the clip that kind of went viral in the Georgia space this weekend. Was Jalen Hurts was asked, hey, what's the biggest difference in the culture between this football team that is playing Kansas City right now and the one that played them 2 years ago in this same football game? And his immediate answer was probably the cultural shift that those Georgia guys brought on into the defense. And he stated verbatim, it starts with Nakobe Dean. And I thought that was, and we talked about this pre-show, like Lewis and Keeley are special teams guys. They will continue to be special teams guys the rest of their NFL career. I don't know if they'll ever be premier starters in the league. We've seen that through their first couple of years in the league. Jalen Carter appears to be the next great thing. I mean, Aaron Donald has already named him the next one. He's me, so is what he basically said. Jordan Davis had multiple sacks in the playoffs, right? Nolan Smith, we've talked about him tonight. Nakobe is not even a starter on this football team, even when healthy.
He was a starter.
He was?
He was
this year he was a starter.
He started opposite of the Bond guy?
I believe so.
He came into a starting role this year.
All right. But of the four kind of box players,
he's a late bloomer out of those for sure.
And the least ceiling of them as a football player, but the most impactful of all of these football players per the Super Bowl MVP. Mm-hmm. And I feel like everyone that watched him in college felt the same exact way about him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, some people might have thought, oh my God, Nakobe Dean's the greatest linebacker we've had since Roquan. And he was, but he wasn't a first rounder.
Nope.
I mean, the linebacker standing next to him was probably better.
Got drafted much higher. And people think Quay is going to be the best linebacker in pro football in the next 18 months. Mm-hmm. There are lots of takes like that.
And I think the belief of Nakobe in college was he's really good college linebacker. NFL wise, going to have to figure something out.
The size and the length are going to create limitations,
and that's still been the case for him. But he's done exactly what he's always done. If he's figured out, he's an impactful football player, both on the field and off the field.
Like I said, his impact is made off the field, and because, like we said, this is really his first year of making starts. This is really his first year of being an impactful player. I know he had that interception towards the end of the game. He actually averaged about 10 tackles a game before he got injured. So, I mean, he had a really, really good season. But you saw, we always go back to the one of him and Channing Tindall in the national championship. Those leadership things like that, people gravitate towards that kind of shift. And especially at the middle linebacker position, which has kind of been deemed, the quarterback of the defense. So,
and that's what you see in that moment. Mm-hmm. Imagine how much of an impact he makes on the stuff you don't see. The stuff that actually really impacts the year-to-year successes of a program, right? The down-to-down discipline and leadership required to be great on a year-to-year basis is all that Nakobe Dean is about. Pretty big comment from Jackson Dart down at the Senior Bowl about Sanford Stadium. I didn't get the exact quote, but he said the best atmosphere he played in. LSU's cool, Alabama's cool, but the craziest atmosphere he played in was senior night 2023 on the road, Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, I think he specifically said this was the game where Brock Bowers came back from his injury. It was senior night. It was a night game. He said that was stupid electric.
Sad.
Guys, since the first year I covered Georgia was 2019. So this will be my sixth season coming up. Sixth season coming up.
You're getting old, dude.
You're a vet now? You a vet?
Guys, did you know that I've only covered one top 5 night game at Sanford Stadium?
Would that be your first year?
Yep.
What game was it?
Notre Dame.
I'm not even sure that was a top 5.
I think it was 2 versus 5.
Let me go check.
One of them was, I think. Either the one in 2017 was, or that one was.
Now, assuming everybody handles their business, Texas will be this year. Potential for Alabama to be this.
Notre Dame was ranked 15th that year.
Never mind. I haven't covered one.
That's kind of hard to believe.
And this is the whole reason that nationally Sanford Stadium doesn't get the love, in terms of a hostile home environment that everyone else gets, because they just don't play these at all. I mean, LSU's got one of these every other year.
Yeah,
every other year. Georgia does not.
And I think that you're dealing with that, but you're also dealing with, not granted, Kirby Smart's going on year 9 of being head coach, year 9 or 10. One of the two. He's been there for almost a decade, but you have to fight off
year 9.
20 to 30 years of Sanford Stadium being a pretty modest environment. Things didn't really start getting ruckus until Kirby was there.
I don't know. I heard the old flea flicker against Mississippi State was loud.
Well, yeah, Kirby Smart was there for that. And that was loud, but it's like it wasn't a consistently raucous environment to be in.
Bro, a game against I think it was the like actual decent Mississippi State teams.
Yeah, it was the Nick
15.
Fitzgerald year.
So no,
they were ranked at the time.
They were ranked like 14th.
With an option quarterback.
And this is too like early, close enough to the Dak years where it was like,
that's what I'm saying. I thought it was the Dak years.
No, but it was close enough to where it's like, oh yeah, we've seen Mississippi State contend in the SEC. This might be another year of that. No,
this was a Dan Mullen special of like, oh shit, Mississippi State's 4-1, and then out there 7-5. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is really just a lack of opportunity. They don't get these, like even the 1-1 matchup with Tennessee that was slotted at 3:30. If it was today, that would surely be a 7:30 kick on ESPN. So they have an opportunity though this year to get.
I mean, thanks to Georgia Tech's home records not being good enough to where, or home attendance not being good enough to where they have to sign a contract with Mercedes-Benz. Y'all basically have a Notre Dame schedule this year. You have 3 true road games.
Yeah,
all year. 3. You play 6 home games, 2 neutral sites, 3 road games.
A good breather from last year.
Yeah.
Schedule location wise,
no doubt. It's going to be nice and
good for us
breezy.
too.
Yeah, good for us too.
Not a lot of traveling.
I do enjoy traveling though.
It is nice.
I enjoyed the road trips.
I do enjoy
some good times.
All right. Scott Cochran back in college football.
Look at that, man.
Yeah, friend of the show.
The funniest thing is, like, we were kind of thought
he's busy too because he's out here emoting congratulatory text messages, not even responding.
He hit you with the thumbs up.
Oh, bro, he hit me with
was it a thumbs up or a heart?
Thumbs up. Maybe it was the heart. Let me go.
Thumbs up.
I'll do some research on.
So I was gonna say, but no, I mean, it's kind of surprising to us. I feel like because we talked to him a couple of months ago at this point now, and it felt like it was like I don't think he wants to get back into coaching right now.
I thought he had found up. Now I don't want to speak for him, but I do want to speak for my addictions. Okay, when I found something that I felt gave me power over my addiction, and identified the things that created weaknesses in my addiction, I stayed the hell away from the things that created weaknesses in my addiction and stayed close to the things that provided strength for me. Having sat down with that man for a long time, the business and nonprofit that he had started fighting addiction and the opioid crisis, that gave him purpose and power over his addiction, in my opinion. And I felt like maybe coaching was something that created some issues around it. Clearly, it seems that everything on that front, comfortable, and maybe we've found, and this does happen once you start to create power over your problems, eventually you feel far more comfortable getting back to the things that you love and that you can stay, true to, like coaching football. There's no doubt that this dude's meant to be coaching football.
Oh, God.
And it's what he most loves. And it's honestly is when he can create his most impact. My questions about this venture into being the head coach at West Alabama, obviously being a Gulf South alum, being a guy that played Division II football, I don't know where the Gulf South's going moving forward. When I was playing at Shorter University in the Gulf South was known as the SEC of Division II football. Like, you had Valdosta State, you had North Alabama, you had West Alabama, Delta State, Mississippi College, West Florida. You had a bunch of really, really good football programs, North Greenville, that were centrally located in the Southeast. Now, today, what was, when I was playing, a 10-team conference is now a 4-member school conference. And based off everyone I've talked to in the Gulf South region that plays Division II football, I don't know what's going to happen to what was the best Division II conference in college football. So I don't know. It's 4-member schools left. I don't even know how they create a schedule moving forward. So we'll see. I mean, Mississippi College has moved away from football entirely. Florida Tech has moved away from football entirely. This is a conference that schools like West Alabama, schools like West Florida, schools like Valdosta State, schools like Delta State perennially compete inside the top 10 to be national powerhouse programs. And I don't know what the conference looks like. So the future of Division II football in the Southeast, a little bit up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and we kind of talked about this as well. Is that because we're also seeing this roster expansion from D1 athletics, or is that just you think it's more just money is changing things?
Yeah, I mean, I know why Shorter's getting out of there. Shorter's getting out of there because they had no business being in there in the first place. Right. Same thing to North Greenville. I think North Greenville went back to the Carolinas League. You know, some of it's been schools being too good for Division II football. North Alabama moved up to D1AA. West Georgia moving up to D1AA. I would imagine West Florida does this eventually. Like West Florida went from never having football to winning Division II national titles in 3 years.
Dude.
You know? And like multiple. So that's how quickly they came up about it. So I don't know, you know, what's going on moving forward. Now, the good news for Scott, this isn't some rebuild, okay? This isn't some program that's been down in the dumps for several years. Their head coach that had been there the last 10 years was winning a lot of football games. He retired, became the athletic director. Scott's taking over now out there at West Alabama. So seems like it's got good roots. Should be a positive trajectory immediately for him out there at West Alabama.
He still lives, well, prior to this, he lived in Alabama, didn't he?
I thought he had a house in Athens.
Okay.
That would make sense.
At least when I met him in Athens.
Okay.
Hey, he'll be able to find some talented football players over in that area, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're about an hour northwest of Mobile. You're about, I want to say, 90 minutes from New Orleans type of deal. Mm-hmm. So you maybe 2.5 hours from New Orleans. Mm-hmm. You got
some reach.
You got some swamp monsters.
That's what you need.
Ain't no doubt. So yeah, he gonna his way to a national title potentially. That's one of his first things he said. I got into coaching with the aspirations to win 10 national titles. I've won 8 of them.
What a flex.
What a flex.
That's a Tom Brady flex.
My goal was to win 10 national titles.
In my first.
And I'm 80% there.
The ace.
He's not even 55 yet, is he?
Dude, I don't even think he's in his late 40s.
Bro, what a career.
Yeah.
What was the term he used when he came on our show of the bitch assness?
Yeah, the bitch
assness of football.
Oh, special teams.
Special teams football.
The bitch assness of special teams
that
football.
Dude needs to be coaching.
That dude needs to be coaching. There ain't no doubt. Ain't no doubt about that. Guys, there's a thing we wrote about today. Shout out Gage Fulford. Gage been working his ass off for us on Dogs Daily as of late. Wrote an article today. No dogs in the preseason All-American list from ESPN. Not a one. Not a single Georgia football player going into the year viewed as the best player in his position.
Not even like football. A KJ Bolden honorable mention type of deal?
Just a Brett Thorson.
Oh.
Just a shout out to the Aussies. By the way, let me continue here.
My bad.
Win total projected at 9.5.
Whoa. That's
starting quarterback consistently ranked outside of the top 10 in conference position lists. And can't even spell his name right at most of these.
The Gun-R Deep State will end this year.
The Gun-R. Oh, man. Hard AR is crazy. They don't have a preseason All-American. And, by the way, going into this year, this is going to be the lowest preseason ranking in the last 6 years for the University of Georgia.
Man.
So,
bulletin boards.
Yeah,
filled up.
So this is legitimate.
This is legit. They don't believe in you, boys. They don't believe in you. Ain't nobody out here believing in Georgia. Book it. They think you're gonna go 7-5.
So 6-6, dude.
I heard the NFL scouts say y'all going no better than 8-4. If you go 8-4, miracle. Yeah, that's what my mentions told me this week.
I saw that one.
Man, you know, it's kind of crazy that not a single one outside of Brett Thorson, no disrespect Thorson, respect your game, but that no other like position player even got a shot. Like you would think like Nate Frazier might get some love because he looked good as a freshman, or one of the tight ends maybe because Georgia produces good tight ends, or hey, Kristen Miller play phenomenal, he's coming back, that's a good guy to have. No, Not even linebackers. Like, hey, they've always got good linebackers. No.
That is a very interesting thought because my first reaction to this was, it makes sense. They're replacing a lot, and a lot of the talent that they aren't replacing is young. Like, Braylon Wilson's going to be coming into one of his first years starting. Like, KJ Bolton, as great as he played, he was a true freshman last year. Like, things like that made me... and then you realize, it's like, wait a minute, there are a lot of very talented players on this roster that you could at least give an All-American nod
They're
to.
doubting the Dukes.
I mean, CJ Allen.
That's
another name. Not
Dalen
one.
Everett.
Yeah, Dalen Everett. Hey, that guy played really good against Texas.
I mean, Tate Ratliff was a shoe-in
Every
for
year.
all these All-American lists because he was a Georgia guy that they knew.
I
Just put him
guarantee
in.
you, anytime they're doing this, who's that guy with the mullet for Georgia? Been there 10 years.
Forever.
Where's number
who's
69?
That guy that's got 40 starts in the SEC.
That guy. That's who we want.
Surely it's that Ernest Green guy, right? Nope.
I think I saw something where an NFL projection list had Ernest Green as one of the top offensive linemen in this year's class. Did not declare, by the way, so take him off the
In this
list.
Upcoming class?
Hell yeah,
No,
Ernest.
they
Go
got
get your
this
money,
class.
brother.
Interesting. That guy needs to be reviewed.
Congratulations, man.
That guy needs to be edited
You did it, bud.
properly. Do you think they overperform?
I think there's certainly players. Like, I feel like Georgia always has players that overperform. Like, maybe because whether it's because they're kind of buried on a depth chart a little bit. Like Kristen Miller, for example, last year was not a forgotten name by any means. But when you started listing off defensive linemen for Georgia last year, it was always Nazir Stackhouse, or is Warren Brinson, or is Michael Williams, or is TID, and then maybe you start getting into Kristen Miller territory, and then he becomes your most consistent defensive lineman last year.
I went back today and flipped through all of the backup reps from UMass and Tennessee Tech.
What was that, like 20 reps?
It was literally like 15 against UMass.
Good God.
They got in rep 26 against Tennessee Tech, and they just started sprinkling backups. Like the first backup against Tennessee Tech to pop in is Gabe Harris, but that's because Michael Williams was out. You know what I mean? With the ankle injury after Clemson. So that's part of the reason there. But no, there was very limited amount of sample size to watch. Something we talked about in the national hour. I was far more impressed going back and watching it with guys like Jordan Thomas. Guys like Nnamdi Ogboko played pretty well. I love Nasir Johnson. I loved him coming out of high school. I love him now. I love him even more now, having watched him. He's so big, so athletic, and plays so hard. Now, the guy I was like, okay, no wonder they let you walk. John Jarrett did not play very well last year at all. So if he came into the office like, Coach, I need a raise, I was like, okay, well, enjoy the West Coast, brother. So I understand that one. Chris Cole, holy hell. Chris Cole, again, I think it was against UMass. He about murdered a running back. Like,
I remember this.
Really, really impressed with it. Ja'Cory Thomas, far more impressed than I thought. Like, really, really good. Ellis Robinson, everybody obviously knows, played really well, I thought, in some mop-up duty last year. Though, watching him and DeMello, I can see why I understand the hype around DeMello coming out of the building, because when they get that guy in man-to-man coverage opportunities, it's like, oh, you ain't running away from him, and you're not getting on top of him, and you're not going to bully him, and he's just too big and long and fast. Whereas Ellis, far more comfortable in zone coverage. Ellis is so clean out of his breaks as a zone dropper, and so patient, and he doesn't get out of his bail real quickly. When I watch cover three corners immediately sprint to the deep end, I'm like, oh, you are not very comfortable, right? You're panicking. You're getting on top way too soon. So I felt like he was far more comfortable in zone covers than DeMello was, but I felt like DeMello a little bit better in bump and run based off what I saw in those film evaluations. Going to have that coming up this week on the network. You guys enjoyed the young offensive line or offensive film review, so we're going to bring you that on the defensive side of the football as well.
Love that. That's reassuring to hear. There were some guys that flashed for you that stood out for you on that young group, because you're going to need to rely on some of them this year.
Do you want to do top five, or do you want to do the bad news?
Let's hear the bad news.
Let's hear some bad news.
We'll end it on a high note.
I told you 2026 was worrisome in the state of Georgia in recruiting, didn't I?
Yeah, you've kind of been hinting at this for a while.
So, as my preliminary get to know. That's what it was. In mid-January, they start setting their board for 2026. Your boys start getting a little intel. We start doing big board projections right here on the network. We've been dumping big board nugs over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. If you're not subscribed over there, you're just not getting all the education with regards to Georgia football you possibly could. So go over there and subscribe today, and you'll find out a lot more detail about some of these things that we're talking about. But looking at it in the preliminary big board kind of rundown and research and all that good stuff, didn't love it. I was telling you, 2026 in the state of Georgia, not even probably, it's the worst top to bottom that I've covered since doing this, right? First class I paid attention to was 2019. So we're on to, this is the 7th class now in 2026. In-state, it's just not very good right now. At least it didn't appear so. And then you have an event like the Under Armour Elite Series where they invite the top 450 players from Alabama and Tennessee and South Carolina and Georgia and North Florida, right? Bring them up to Carrollton, let them all compete in shorts and t-shirts. You really get a feel for what the class looks like. And it's not what it normally is, guys. Not in this state. In this state and in this region, you can go to an event like that normally at Carrollton, at that Under Armour event, and you'll see 25 guys that you think may one day be able to play for a program like Georgia. I didn't see 25 guys yesterday that I think could one day play for the University of Georgia. So I do think the in-state crop is a little bit down, particularly on the offensive line and defensive lines, okay? There isn't a Justice Terry in 2026. We've told you about that. There's not an Elijah Griffin in 2026 on the defensive line. There is not a Juan Gaston on the offensive line in the state of Georgia in 2026, okay? Which is a concern. And in 2027, it looks like there's some promising things moving up forward, but just not tremendously pleased with what's going on in the state in terms of the product of players in 2026. A lot of bad bodies on the offensive line for the most part. No muscle definition, very, very few calf bellies. Okay, I want to see high calves, skinny ankles on offensive linemen. I don't see a lot of that out here nowadays. I see a lot of big, thick legs with not a lot of horizontal twitch and mobility, things required to stay in front of people as an offensive lineman. The cleanest prospect in the state in 2026, I don't even think it's close. I think it's Bear McWhorter out of Cass. And I do love Bear. I love Bear. But I think Bear, like year 3, it might be able to be a serviceable SEC interior offensive lineman. There is zero projections of the Bear McWhorter simulation where I think he's a top 15 tackle projection coming out of college. Okay? Normally, we got like 4 or 5 of those guys that if you told me, hey, that guy's going to be a first-round draft pick one day, I'd be like, okay, well, it makes sense. He's 6'7", he's 310 pounds, he's a really good athlete. Yeah, there's not one of those right now in 2026. Now, positives. I really, really like Grant Hovland, the tight end out of Milton. He's a 2027 kid. As a football player that I've seen in pads several times, he's developed tremendously over the last 6 months. Okay, seeing him in shorts and a t-shirt, he is a very, very clean prospect at the tight end position. I've been made aware, number one guy for them at the tight end position in 2027 now that Mark Bowman has reclassified into 2026. Really, really clean. I also really like Jordan Edmonds, the corner out of Sprayberry. The only problem here is I think he's going to end up at Alabama in about 9 days. His commitment's set for February 19th. Guys, 6'3".
Ooh,
198 pounds.
It's a big corner.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Not one of these corners that's 6'3", you're like, might have to play safety? Yeah. No. Not one of these corners that's 6'3", we're like, man, he gets in bad spots.
Newborn deer.
Just perfect. A perfect football player. I think he's going to be great. Like I said, not great news for Georgia fans listening today. I think he's going to end up at Alabama in 9 days.
So I have a couple of questions before we go further down. One, the state of Georgia gets heavily recruited anyways. So is this also not great news for your Alabama, your Florida?
It's not great for everybody.
Okay.
And by the way, yesterday just wasn't Georgia kids. There's kids from Mississippi. There's kids from Alabama. There's kids from South Carolina.
So it's a national thing.
It is a national problem. It is a national problem right now in 2026, I believe. Okay? The highest rated defensive, this is how you really know. It's the blue chippers nowadays at positions like defensive tackle, who's the best corner, who's the best quarterback. You know what I mean? The blue chip prospects. Who's the best defensive tackle in 2026?
That's a good question.
And I've asked this left and right, and can't nobody give me an answer because there's no, that guy's going to be great. We know for a fact there's none of that. Or nationally, all right, maybe somebody arises to be that very, very soon, but I just don't see it right now. So here's the great news. I think Georgia's going to sign their best tight end class in the history of Georgia football this year.
That's saying a lot.
Says a lot. I think they feel really, really good about where they're at with Caden Prothro. Mark Bowman, the kid out of Mater Dei, just reclassed into 2026. If Todd Hartley misses on Mark Bowman, it's going to be the first miss in the history of Todd Hartley. I don't think he misses. I don't think the guy misses. So, and I also do believe, they already have the commitment from Lincoln Keys, the tight end out of the Midwest, and they like him a lot too. So I think they have a good opportunity to sign all three of those guys in this class. And that will be akin to the time that they almost had Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers, and Theo Johnson on the same roster. Mm-hmm. That's what it'll feel like. And by the way, Elias Williams and Ethan Barbour still on the roster. Oh, and that Jaden Riddell guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to be okay.
Here's a question that's kind of off topic, but involves recruiting. When teams go out and recruit, do they recruit with their system in mind, or do they go out and just get the players that you want and then build the system around that? Or is it both?
Well, I believe Georgia's system is just predicated on we got great players. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right, but
so they go get great players.
Right, but it's very clear that Georgia's system in 2021, 2022, and 2023 very quickly realized, okay, it's going to run through what can we do with Brock Bowers? How can our running backs create separation in 1v1s? And do we have wide receivers that can play winning football? Then in 2024, it became more predicated on let's have a running game with tight ends out of 12 and stuff like
Kirby,
that.
I do think that with the nature of recruiting, they have come to grips with the idea that they have a much better chance of signing the best tight end class ever than even going out and doing a consistent year in, year out. We signed 2 top 50 wide receivers.
Right.
Far more replicable for them to continue to stack the tight end room because it's a cheaper room than do what they just did with Taylor Taylor, CJ Wiley, Landon Roldan, Thomas Blackshear, and Tyler Williams. Mm-hmm. The idea that they're going to do that every single year, expensive. And we see it in the fact that they're not in on Tristan Keys.
Mm-hmm, no.
Not even close. You know what I mean? So some of these very, very high caliber wide receiver targets, you're just not going to get in on the mix on. Maybe you don't even want to be. You know what I mean? Because they're too expensive for how you go about your roster acquisition strategies.
So it's safe to assume that if you do land all of these guys, you're going to become a very tight end centric offense.
I mean, you already are.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're going to continue
down
that path. So there's that. I like Taylor Marr, the running back out of Colquitt. Big kid. Very big, very much so larger than you imagine hearing a guy's a 10-500 meter runner. You hear 10-500 meter runner, you're like, okay, Dwight Phillips. Mm-hmm. Dwight Phillips, by the way, 10-2-8 guy.
It's pretty quick.
We're talking about a dude who's got 3 inches on Dwight Phillips and about 40 pounds and runs 0.25 seconds slower over a 100 meter run. He's good.
Not a lot.
Yeah, he's good. And I love the pedigree. This is a football player who just started playing football at like 14. Mm-hmm. Brother was heavily recruited by Josh Crawford at Western Kentucky. They are very, very well connected with this family. Sean Calhoun, the head coach down there at Valdosta State, down there at Colquitt, played at Valdosta State. Mm-hmm. I believe he was the quarterback of the Valdosta State Blazers when Will Muschamp was the defensive coordinator and Kirby Smart was the safeties coach.
Oh, God.
How about that?
That's crazy.
A little pull for you.
A lot.
Yeah. So there's that. I like Taylor Marr a lot. I also like Carson Baker. I think there's plenty of options at running back in 2026. The problem is I think Carson Baker going to get expensive. You know, good football player. Ohio State's in the mix. And he be running too. That's a 10-5 guy as well. So a lot of options in 2026. Also like the kid. Oh man, the kid from Prince Avenue. Beard is his last name. Beard the second. He is the nephew of Garrison Hurst. He's a guy. He's a guy. So
the legacy guy.
Yeah, a little legacy play. I really like Kareem Hewley, 2027 quarterback out of Gainesville High School. Well, you got to see him at OTAs last year. Mm-hmm. I think he'd been at Gainesville like 6 days and went out there, started dicing against good defenses in that OTA session. About 5'11", Not a huge dude, okay? About 5'11", about 185 pounds. Reminds me a lot of what they liked out of Marcel Reed coming out of high school. Monken was all over Marcel Reed, ended up going to Texas A&M, going to be their starter again this year. Not as good of an athlete as Marcel, not as tall, not as lanky as Marcel, even though Marcel's only about 6 foot. But extremely accurate in the ball pops. Like him a lot.
Yes, it does.
Like him a lot. Also, there's this dude from Saraland that showed up. We drove through Who went to New Orleans with me?
I did.
We drove through Saraland, and because we talked about Ryan Williams being 17.
Oh yeah,
out there in the swampland is Saraland. Now Saraland about 5.5 hours from Carrollton. It's a poke. Okay, man's got up out the car. Did Deshaun Spencer? Didn't lose a rep. Not a single rep out here cooking everybody. So much so that I felt the need to watch the film today. This is also a former running back that just started playing wide receiver.
Oh.
So these clips that we're going to watch, and the first one is him in a state title game jumping over Neem Offord. The number one corner in America. This guy just started playing wide receiver. Georgia has no idea who he is. I was like, hey, y'all need – I don't even know who that is. You need to. So, yeah, I like this kid a lot. Liked what he did yesterday in camp. Felt like watching the film. So, let's go take a look at it. Quarterback KJ Lacey. This is the Texas commit right here, throwing to him. Okay. I didn't get measurements in terms of 40 times on this cat, but he can run. Okay. He can run. That's Neem Offord running with him. It's hard to see. But yeah, jumps over him, kind of pulls it off the back of his helmet right there in that clip.
It's a crazy decision to throw that ball. But.
Yeah, absolutely crazy decision to throw that football. He got some go-go juice, boys.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he can get on top really, really quickly.
Was he a physical runner or was he more shifty?
Very shifty, very nuanced, very hard to get hands on. But the other thing that was noticeable about him, Kirby, immediate. Like, he's going to walk away from you within the first 5 or 6 yards and then continue to run away from you as he builds speed.
Oh,
like that right there. I mean, getting inside on that slant, those next 3 or 4 steps were what created that tremendous separation right there. Light show, Johnny.
Dang.
See that? Tight body contested catch away from his body right there. And then Cribbs.
He played running back?
Played running back, dude. He's got really, really natural hands and red dreads on this cat. Red dreads.
That's dangerous.
Red dreads on my man.
Roger Goodell's not going to like that.
No. Will you look up some offers for me on my man here? I don't even think this is like a big-time prospect right now coming out of high school. That's a good scramble drill working right there with Lacey.
You saw him in person. How was his route tree? Because this is obviously just post and go.
So, I mean, when you're out there in those one-on-ones, you got 53.5 yards. I didn't feel like it was one of these guys that had to double move everybody, right? He's in the slot every rep at those one-on-ones, and he does such a good job of getting up onto the toes, stepping on the toes, and then using that quick acceleration to immediately pull away. What do we got?
Looks like he's got some like first-level SEC schools like Mississippi State's in the mix, Arkansas, Auburn, Vanderbilt, and then lately it's been like UCF, South Alabama, Georgia Southern.
And this is a 2026 guy?
This is 20, yeah. He's going to be a senior this year out there at Saraland. I like him a lot. We'll see. We'll see how it ultimately pans out for this football player. Like I said, not really even on Georgia's board, if you will. I always like to go into, when you go into an event like this, there's 450 kids. If you're what?
He went for 54 receptions, 1,037 yards, and 13 touchdowns last year.
Buddy. I'm telling you. They basically said, hey, how can we recreate Ryan Williams in this Saraland offense? Let's just take the running back and put him out there. Okay.
It's like a Jalen Hyatt stat line.
Basically. We'll see. Like I said, when I go into those events, you would be remiss going in there with 450 names and not knowing where the school you cover stands with some of those football players.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if everybody else, when I first started this, I didn't have the ability to do that, right? I didn't have sourcing to where I could be like, hey, I'm going to look at all these players. Which ones do you actually like? Which of these 450, what 100 can I actually focus on? Otherwise, I'm just telling you what I like. And what I like is totally different than what you like. You got a totally different intel on all these football players. So I like Deshaun Spencer. We'll see where it ultimately ends up. Is that it?
No, we got weekly top 5.
Top 5 of the week.
Oh, yeah. My bad. We went out of notes.
I thought you were avoiding it. I was like,
Nah, that's on me. That's on me. Top 5 of the week. This one's brought to you by yours truly. Top 5 former or current Georgia Bulldogs you would want to take to an all-you-can-eat buffet with you. Who wants to
actually
start?
A very exciting one.
I go first.
Do we want to do it in like a draft so we don't all step on each other's toes?
Oh, I like this. First off the board, give me one Darius Swain.
Oh.
Nose tackle of the Mark Richt era. Senior year, weighed in officially at 366 pounds. Come on down to the Golden Corral, Mr. Swain.
God, I love Golden Corral.
My first off the bus, Ben Cleveland.
Oh,
That dude's going to clean house. You out here eating squirrel, you're coming with me to the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Squirrel and dumplings, heard. Strong.
All right, I'm taking this one just because
But you are right. If you're outside your house and you're like, shit, I'm hungry. Let me kill a squirrel and grill it up right now.
They're actually not that good.
Squirrel? Never had it.
I mean, it's just gamey.
It's very gamey. Not a lot of meat.
Yeah, most game that you kill is indeed gamey.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but like some of it's just like if you got a squirrel, you'd be able to know.
Ben Cleveland, good second pick.
Thank you.
My first pick. I'm doing this one because he's 6'4", stands at 305 pounds, but he hails from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, so Cedric Van Pran.
He knows a thing about food. Cedric Van Pran is going to be my first pick off of this.
Not a bad take. Can't believe he lasted this long. Give me Jordan Davis.
I wanted to avoid Jordan
Give me
Davis.
one Jordan Davis, a man who's notorious for having to keep his weight under control at Georgia.
But it didn't matter.
Now, we're going to have to trade out the Swedish Fish for some actual food eating competition, items. Maybe some protein. Not Swedish Fish, but we'll be all right.
Is this a competition or all-you-can-eat buffet?
You want to take them with you to the all-you-can-eat buffet and bankrupt them bitches.
So I got a little strategic at the end of mine, but I'll let you know. My second pick, Richard Seymour, just the profile. 6'6", 315.
He's on my list.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, come on and hop into the car.
We've got sustained history of maintaining big manness. If some of these offensive defensive linemen, they get done, they start cowering out. I won't walk around 300 pounds no more. I'd rather walk around 245. People still call me fat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not Richard Seymour. No. Richard Seymour still look like he could play.
Mm-hmm.
He can come play for me.
Who's up next?
I'm up next. For my number 2 pick, I'm going with the guy that I think is the quintessential, walks into an all-you-can-eat buffet and the kitchen staff goes, oh, shit. 6'6", 320 pounds from Rome, Georgia. Give me Tate Ratledge. Mullet strikes fear into a kitchen.
I was going to take Tate not because of that, but because Tate Ratledge has never steered me wrong with the food take of his. Anything that he says you need to order, you need to order. Oh yeah, he changed my life. What
kind of things did he put you on to?
Trapeze, the Carolina dip sandwich.
Trapeze
tier 1 selection. So that's why he's on my list.
You hail from Rome, Georgia, at a boarding school, was Darlington. Yeah, you probably hit the B-dubs a couple times. Little Buffaloes over there, all you can eat wings. Take them down for about 75 racks. I can't believe this one's lasted this long. Give me Solomon McKinley. Yes, sir. Big thickums.
Big thickums.
All right, my next pick is Ben Jones. You got some nasty to you, and you're a big guy.
You hanging dreadlocks on the ceiling fan.
I know for a fact you're cleaning plate every single time.
I know we've talked about that story before. His room must have stank.
Had to.
Bro, you got a stray dread swinging from your ceiling fan? Come on.
That had been riding in your girdle for an entire second half of a
and you know he
game.
didn't wash that.
Hell no. How you wash a dread?
That's pride and glory right there.
Soak it and put it in
That's like taking a game-worn jersey and washing it before you hang it up.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Who else we got?
My third pick. Who do I want to go with? I'm going to go with someone who was one of the first major big commits out of the Kirby Smart era. 6'6", 350 pounds from Brooklyn, New York. Give me Isaiah Wilson.
Yeah, man.
That boy
Isaiah Wilson.
And New York.
Almost died of a heat stroke.
Yeah. Knows good food up
Not
north.
something to laugh, but
Not something you should laugh at. I'm
Jay,
definitely
that's messed
drafting. I know I'm out of turn here, but I'm definitely drafting Darnell Washington.
No, it was your turn.
it was your turn.
I'm definitely drafting.
That's a sneaky
Darnell
good
Washington.
pick.
See, I almost went with Darnell Washington, but the weight steered me away. I like to have a 3 in front of the
Well,
weight.
you're looking at the wrong one. Have you seen high school Darnell Washington? He looked like a stick figure.
Have you seen
And
Darnell now?
He about 305 right about now.
Yeah.
If you had to put him on a scale.
I guess
that
the
dude
question
is huge.
I guess the question is, are we taking them when they're at Georgia, or are we taking them now?
I'm taking Darnell Washington because I know how he got to where he's at, and that's with a fork and a shovel. My man can eat some food. Now, I don't know if it's a matter of sheer quantity of food that he is eating that has caused this weight gain, or maybe just choice. Right, food selection choice might be your problem. A lot of fast food, so I've been told, on the Darnell Washington train.
For my final pick, Nakobe Dean. In an interview with ESPN, this man said his favorite meal was catfish and spaghetti. You're just a fun hang at the buffet because I want to know whatever in the heck you're putting on your plate because I'm going to be saying, what are you eating there? And I might have to go try it for myself just because it is an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Kobe Dean was definitely one of those kids in like elementary school that would just pour everything onto their lunch tray. Just be like, look at this shit.
No, I mean,
He would still eat it.
The spaghetti and catfish is definitely a Mississippi thing.
Oh, yeah, for
definitely.
sure.
Just-
and that's why I want him there.
just a hit.
I want to know what you're about.
I like catfish and I like spaghetti.
Yeah,
bro.
I mean, it's like chicken parm, but
what
with
sauce
fish.
are you
It's like chicken parm, but with fish.
Yeah.
That's not like chicken parm.
It's like, you just
Actually, wait a
substituting
minute.
different meat.
fried catfish and spaghetti? But the Kobe might be onto something.
He might have cooked.
The Kobe might be onto something.
Put a little hot sauce
How many
on
picks
it?
do I have left?
I don't know. I did all mine because I also had a Tay.
There's one name I still have left on mine.
I've got 2 left on mine that I didn't go pick.
You're missing a 350-pounder from Camden County. He got to be 350. I don't care what he's listed at. He got to be 350.
You talking about Ja?
No, I'm talking about Micah Morris.
Oh, I thought someone was going to take Jaw Jackson.
Not, that's just a big dude.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me as a dude that
That's what I'm saying.
carries a special fork.
But
to
dude,
get down with.
have you not seen these videos of
Yeah, Phillips.
taking my 6'9" husband to Olive Garden? He's built like me, but he puts away
Algorithm you
4
got going
entrees.
over there, Joe?
Well, I mean, it's not
My
a bad
final pick,
algorithm.
I went with Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones from Lithonia, 6'5", 311 pounds. Athletic as hell, but does look like he could eat.
What's the biggest feat of athletic endeavor with regards to food you've ever seen? Because I got one right off the top of my head.
Ever seen?
Yep. Remember Steve Bedrosian? You probably don't even remember the name Steve Bedrosian. Steve Bedrosian won a Cy Young as a closer for the Atlanta Braves. His son, Cam Bedrosian, played with my brother. I once saw a 14-year-old Cam Bedrosian put down 2 deluxe spicy Italian footlongs from Subway and 6 cookies.
Whoa. 6 cookies?
In one sitting.
Oh my gosh.
In one sitting. And I thought, you, sir, are my idol.
How long ago was that?
Huh?
How long ago was that?
I mean, he was like 14.
Was it still
so I
five-
would have been
was it
11.
14?
Were they still $5 footlongs?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, no doubt.
That's right. Yeah, that's
I mean, the
definitely
deluxe $5, the deluxe spicy Italian back in the day was probably like $6.25.
We had it all.
I mean, you ain't walking out of Subway without a $12 tab nowadays.
No, we had it all.
Thanks a lot.
I mean, me personally, I did 56 wings at Bash Night one time.
I did see a teammate.
Buffaloes?
Yeah.
I did see a
Dude,
teammate.
Buffaloes is so good.
I did see a teammate at Buffalo's get called off.
How many did you have?
87.
Oh my god.
Okay,
87.
Most I ever saw was 84.
Yeah, 87 got called off.
The trick is you gotta stay away from the fries.
Yeah, they get you with the fries.
fries
bro.
fill you up.
They were waiting him out. You think offensive lineman walking in there didn't know to avoid the fries? Come on, guys.
Hey, look.
Yeah, no. He started the order with, let me get 4 baskets. And they knew. Alarms went off in the kitchen.
Shit.
We got
Start
one
up
of
the
these.
other fryer.
Yeah, drop another one.
But I don't know if I've seen one like personally like that I can remember.
I've seen some drinking feats, but
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, one time at youth, we had a contest to see who could eat a pint of ice cream first. Or 2 guys had to eat a gallon of ice cream. Who
who can
could do
get
it first?
diabetes first?
Yeah, it was pretty miserable to watch.
Who did anyone win?
Yeah, they won.
Sick.
Just sat there and
What are they up
watched.
to nowadays?
Couldn't even tell you.
Homecoming 2016. West Georgia beat us by, I think, 35 at home. Drank an entire handle of Apple Crown. Not one of my
Crown
finest
Apple.
achievements.
Delicious.
Got to the point where I was dumping the handle was getting mixed, and then the handle was half left, and we were going to a party, and I took a 2-liter of Sprite, refilled the
Crown
handle,
Apple Sprite. Ooh.
and then just carried the handle around, drinking straight out of the handle, half and half Sprite and Crown Apple.
It's delicious.
Nice.
2 years sober next week.
Was that your sign off?
No, all right.